Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. If you're a focused learner who truly values your mind, you are absolutely in the right place today. We're going to be unpacking a deeply alarming trend, the modern decline in critical thinking, and the literal freefall of IQ scores. For about half a century, human intelligence steadily rose. It was this phenomenon we called the Flynn effect. But since the turn of the century, the tide has drastically shifted. We are seeing a reverse Flynn effect. Test scores are plummeting. Deep reading habits are disappearing, and we're kind of literally witnessing the slow death of independent human thought.
Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand what's happening to us today, we actually need to rewind and look at one of the darkest chapters in human history. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a brilliant German theologian. He opposed the Nazi regime, and he was eventually imprisoned for it. And while he was sitting in his cell, reflecting on how his entire country, this nation of poets and thinkers, had turned into a collective of unquestioning criminals, he came to a really profound realization. He concluded that stupidity is actually a far more dangerous enemy of the good than malice or even evil. You can protest evil, right? You can expose it. But as Bonhoeffer realized, against stupidity, we are completely defenseless.
So here's our roadmap for the explainer. First, we'll uncover the true nature of stupidity. Then, we'll look at the attention span crisis, the psychological traps of the echo chamber, and the very modern threat of outsourcing our thought to AI. And finally, don't worry, we're not just bringing bad news, we'll cover a concrete survival guide to help you reclaim your mind.
All right, starting with part 1, the true nature of stupidity, a sociological defect. Now, we really have to make a vital distinction here between ignorance and stupidity. Ignorance simply means you just don't know the facts yet. And you can cure ignorance. Stupidity, on the other hand, is a moral and sociological surrender. It's when someone actively avoids complexity and aggressively defends their prejudice against irrefutable evidence. Bonhoeffer realized that stupidity wasn't some congenital biological defect. It was something that happened to people when they allowed themselves to be overwhelmed by rising power or group consensus.
Think about it like this. You can have someone who is remarkably agile intellectually, yet they act utterly stupid because they operate entirely on slogans, catchwords, and groupthink. They've just completely lost their inner independence. On the flip side, you can have someone who is, intellectually dull, maybe they lack a formal education, but they retain their moral autonomy. They actually think for themselves.
And this concept lines up perfectly with the work of economic historian Carlo Cipolla. He created these 5 laws of human stupidity, charting human behavior into 4 quadrants based on who benefits and who loses. The intelligent person, they create a win-win scenario. The helpless person takes a personal loss to help society. The bandit enriches themselves at the expense of others. But look at the stupid person at the bottom. They uniquely harm society while deriving absolutely no personal benefit whatsoever. Their actions just end up frustrating, angering, and confusing everyone around them.
Which leads to Cipolla's ultimate, most glaring warning. A stupid person is literally the most dangerous type of person. Even more dangerous than a bandit. Because, think about it, a bandit is at least rational in their selfishness, right? You can predict what they're going to do. A stupid person acts completely irrationally, catching you entirely off guard. And when these individuals reach positions of power, whether that's through democratic elections or just climbing a bureaucratic ladder, their capacity to do real, widespread damage is alarmingly enhanced.
Which brings us right to part 2, the attention span crisis, a timeline of decline. Because to understand how we are being made stupid today, we really have to look at what's happening to our focus. The empirical data we have on this is literally in a free fall. Dr. Gloria Mark, she's a pioneering researcher at UC Irvine, has been tracking human attention on screens for 2 decades now. Back in 2004, we averaged about 3 minutes of focus before switching tasks. By 2012, that dropped to 75 seconds. And right before the pandemic, it hit an abysmal 47 seconds. Our devices are consciously engineered to fracture our capacity for sustained thought, basically trapping us in this state of constant stressful multitasking.
And here's why our brains are just breaking under the pressure. The average person today consumes about 34 gigabytes of chaotic information daily. That is the equivalent of reading a full novel's worth of content every single day, except it's not a novel. It's a fragmented mess of headlines, videos, and hot takes. Our Stone Age brains simply cannot process this much data. So, to just survive this immense cognitive overload, we're forced to start taking mental shortcuts.
And that sets us up perfectly for part 3, Traps of the Echo Chamber, Identity over Truth. Let's impartially look at how modern social media platforms weaponize those mental shortcuts against us.
Because we're overloaded, we inevitably fall into specific psychological traps. First up, we become cognitive misers. The brain prefers an easy 30-second video over a complex 10-minute analysis. This triggers the Dunning-Kruger effect, where the least qualified voices online are often the loudest and the most confident. We also fall hard for the illusion of explanatory depth. We actually think we understand wildly complex geopolitical or scientific issues just because we skimmed a headline. Ultimately, we prioritize our social identity over the truth. We see comfort and group conformity, not the actual facts.
So the result is an environment perfectly optimized for mass stupidity. According to a UNESCO survey, a staggering 62% of content creators admit they do not even confirm the accuracy of what they share. Whether we're talking about junk science, wild conspiracy theories, or political fake news, false information spreads 6 times faster than the truth. Why? Because it targets our base emotions: fear, anger, excitement. We share first, and we maybe think later.
Moving right along to part 4, outsourcing thought to AI, the death of depth. Look, if social media destroyed our attention spans, artificial intelligence threatens to replace our thinking entirely. MIT researcher Dr. Natalia Kozmina points out a massive shift here. Traditional Googling or researching required active mental participation, right? You had to search, analyze, evaluate, and pull concepts together. This built what psychologists call depth of processing, but large language models operate on passive prompting. You issue a quick command, you get an instant output, there is zero brain-building friction involved. You are entirely avoiding the cognitive heavy lifting.
And honestly, the data on this is already kind of terrifying. Those same MIT researchers tested students who wrote essays themselves versus those who just used AI. The AI users underperformed significantly on both neural and linguistic tests, and they retained drastically less information. We're seeing the rise of what people are calling work slop, just absent-minded, artificially generated content passed back and forth in schools and offices. By outsourcing our intellectual curiosity to a machine, we are literally stunting our own neurological development.
So we are definitely facing an incredible challenge. But listen to me, we are not powerless. Let's get into part 5, how to reclaim your mind, practical steps. It is absolutely possible to break free from this collective hive mind.
Dr. Gloria Mark offers a really specific, highly practical protocol to combat your attention deficit. Step 1. Practice meta-awareness. Before you compulsively check your phone, just pause. Ask yourself, why am I actually doing this? Am I just bored? Step 2. Take actual cognitive breaks. Your brain's executive function gets fatigued. You have to give it time to replenish without staring at a screen. Step 3. Track your attentional rhythms. Figure out when your brain is naturally sharpest during the day and relentlessly protect that time for your deepest, hardest work. Please do not waste your peak focus on email or scrolling social media. Next, you need to put yourself on a strict information diet. Turn off autoplay on all your devices so you aren't just passively consuming endless slop. Always verify information before you amplify it. Check your sources. Practice intellectual humility. Seriously, the smartest people aren't afraid to say, I don't know. Actively seek out articles from perspectives you disagree with and actually read the whole thing, not just the sensationalized headline. Treat these as your daily acts of cognitive resistance.
Think about the sheer difference in neurological impact between our habits. Reading a long-form book provides deep reflection, real emotional fulfillment, and sustained neural engagement. Doom scrolling? It just leaves you emotionally exhausted, anxious, and you barely remember a single thing you even looked at. You have to actively choose to replace low-value screen time with high-value immersion.
Which actually brings our narrative full circle, right back to Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He famously wrote that you cannot instruct someone out of stupidity. You can't just hand them more facts or argue them into sense because their groupthink will just push the facts right aside. Instead, overcoming collective mindlessness requires an internal act of liberation. You must individually choose to free your own mind.
So how do you make that leap of liberation and defeat the bandits of the world? Use these final tools. Reject simple binary thinking. Really embrace nuance and complexity. Deliberately keep people in your life who respectfully challenge your opinions. It's the only way to stay out of the echo chamber. Deeply question any workplace, social circle, or online algorithm that actively rewards you for blind compliance. And finally, you have to be willing to accept the temporary social isolation that sometimes comes with standing firm in your own independent thought.
Because here's the harsh reality. The system wants obedient, predictable subjects, not highly intelligent, critical ones. It wants you to stay addicted, outsourced, and divided. Therefore, in a world that systematically manufactures and rewards stupidity, maintaining your independent thought isn't just a personal preference anymore. It is a courageous act of resistance. It's a rebellion.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, provocative thought to carry into your day. Really look at your daily habits, your screen time, the way you consume information, and ask yourself honestly, are your devices serving you, or are you serving your devices? The choice of whether to surrender to the stupidity machine or reclaim the immense power of your own mind is entirely up to you. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I challenge you to go out there and truly think for yourself.